Hey, what is going on, everyone? This is Greg, your co-host to the Grilling to Get Away podcast, and I am so excited to be here today with my buddy Blake. Blake, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today, and I'm looking forward to talking about your event that you just had, cooking for some people. So I wanted to get you on there before you forgot about it. So yeah, no, just appreciate you coming on, Blake.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me on. You reached out. I was glad to do this. Love you guys' podcast. So definitely glad to be on.
Thanks. I appreciate you listening. But you and I have been kind of connecting via Instagram for a while. Been watching what you're doing. Really appreciate the content that you put out there. You also tried some of our products, so that doesn't hurt at all. But you recently did a cook, and I want to get more into that. But why don't you just give us a little background about, when you started barbecuing and grilling, how long you've been doing it, and maybe some of the, what type of equipment you got.
Certainly. So as far as barbecue and grilling, it's probably about when I was like 10, 11 is when I kind of really got into it. When the parents allowed you to kind of be around some flames and whatnot and be a little bit responsible. I've always just had a passion for cooking and the grilling aspect of it, being outside. And I think that camaraderie, because you're always, when you're grilling out, you always have your friends, your family, whoever around. It's always a great time. So what kind of drew me to it. So I've always just liked cooking. Then as I progressed, got better at my techniques, learned different skill sets. My mom got remarried to a guy from Texas, so that started learning me a little bit more into like that kind of realm. We did a competition together for the KCBS. That was fun. We took fourth in pork butt, which was pretty good. So
Nice.
I got that ribbon still.
Awesome.
And so then, I just kind of was going there, got into college, was still always known whenever, friends went out to the beach or went boating, whatever, it was always, okay, Blake's going to cook for us, and whatnot. So just kind of kept that skill set going. Didn't really ever get into the whole creator type thing until maybe last year. My wife was like, okay, you do all these great cooks. Why don't you just post them online? Yeah. I was like, nah, I'm not that person. I'm not an influencer, that's not me. And then I was just like, whatever, I'll start doing it. But honestly, I'm not posting to like influence people. I'm just posting just to post and interact with a lot of people. Met a lot of great people through it, met great companies like Burn Pet Barbecue through online social media. So that's kind of where it's gone. As far as what I have, outside, I got a Blackstone 36 and a 22 for the camper. Currently have a Pit Boss pellet grill, and I think my wife maybe dropped down, so I'm down to I think 5 Webers and an Acorn.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so you must have a pretty big backyard patio, huh?
Sort of. Only two of the Webers sit out. The other ones are sitting. Okay. It's one of those things where you drive around, you see a nice Weber.
Yeah.
Someone's got it out there for like $10-15. You can't let it just sit there. You got to bring it home.
You got to pick it up. Yeah, I got a couple of those too in the backyard. When the wife asked, did we just get another grill? I was like, no, I've had that one for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like that pair of shoes that you have over there in the closet.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. So you started out, when you were younger, and you kind of progressed as you got older. Now, you said you had some Blackstones, you got a pellet. Which one do you find you use the most, like out of all the stuff that you got?
Well, I recently got the pellet not too long ago, maybe like six or so months ago. Okay. Blackstone for a while there was being used quite heavily just because it's very versatile for a lot of the stuff. I would say it's about almost 50-50 between the two of those right now.
Okay.
I do plan on getting some more Weber cooks going here shortly. I kind of got the pellet just because our family is busy. I got a 6 and a 2-year-old.
Sure.
So sometimes, tending some of those fires and stuff like that, it doesn't come into play. But I got a couple cooks in my head that I want to do in the Weber. So they'll be coming up shortly.
Okay. What's your favorite thing to cook on the Blackstone?
Number one thing that I always cook when I got my first Blackstone or I break in somebody else's is chicken fried rice.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why, but it's so good.
Talk me through that. Like, what's your recipe? Or you don't have to give me any secrets, but like, what's your kind of recipe and your go-to for that? Like, how do you prepare it? Sounds good.
Oh, it's delicious. And honestly, so like when I got my 36, it was like opening a Christmas present because of the fact that like you had so much room for the 22. But pretty much it's pretty simple. I mean, you just cook some rice beforehand, whether it's the day before. I've even done it where like the rice finishes the rice cooker and bring it out. So you don't necessarily have to, but it's better if you do let it sit in the fridge for a while. But cook up your chicken, season it with some soy sauce, sesame oil, seasonings, whatever. Some onions, throw them down. Once those kind of get cooked, kind of push them off to the side to like a cooler zone. And then you get the rice going, throw some butter in there with that, some soy sauce. Once that kind of gets all broken up, I buy like it's this bag from Sam's Club where it has like peas and carrots and possibly corn. I can't remember. All in there. It's frozen vegetable mix.
Yeah.
Throw that on there. Once that kind of thaws out, crack a couple of eggs, throw them on there, mix everything together, season, and you're good to go. And I think the reason why I like it is because the Blackstone to me reminds me of hibachi, which is what I think everybody always buys Blackstone kind of initially for is hibachi or smash burgers.
Yeah.
So you kind of get to do all that kind of like ta 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 ta, you know. And so that's what's fun about it. But it always just turns out amazing and it feeds a lot.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Like I know a lot of people do the smash burgers on them. I haven't seen anybody do like you're saying like the chicken fried rice yet. So I will have to go out and look. I don't have a Blackstone myself, so I'd have to maybe get creative with like a cast iron on the Weber or something like that. But that sounds delicious, man. And I suppose the kids just eat it up, huh?
Oh, they do. Which like for a while there, my kids were like kind of, well, not my daughter. She's still hasn't gone through that phase where she's picky, but my son went into that like picky phase. Yeah. And he's like, no, I don't want to eat rice. And then like, you're like, dude, just try it. And he's like, okay, this is actually good. I'm like, yeah, I know how to cook. Come on now.
Yeah. So, that's great, man.
Awesome.
It's always good when the kids like what you cook and then you can always go back to it.
Exactly.
All right. Well, I wanted to talk to you. You recently did a cook over like the weekend, right? And I think it was for a charity, a fundraiser. And, I just wanted to have you on to talk through that because, we do have a lot of people that, might be listening that might be asked to, do a fundraiser cook or, cook for a large group, even though like maybe they don't cater often or whatever, but they're getting pretty good at being around the grill and the smoker. So people see that and they want to invite them out. So why don't you just tell me a little bit more about kind of the, what you were doing, the organization that you were doing it for and the process that you went through to cook up the meats.
Certainly. So the organization is called the Fallen Outdoors. It's a vet organization that helps get veterans back out hunting and fishing. And a buddy of mine is on the local chapter here. So I see him post all the kind of time about it. And they just so happened this was their third year out at a pheasant farm that's really close to like my house and stuff like that. And I know the owners. So I'm like, okay, I know the location they're going to. My buddy's working, like running the event. Like, I really need to help out because me personally, I always think we need to support our veterans. They're the ones who give us our freedom to do the things that we do every day. Allows me to sit in this comfy office with air conditioning, right? And not worry about stuff. So I was like, I got to get back to this. So I just reached out and I said, hey, is anybody doing anything for you guys food wise? He's like, no. And at first I was going to bring my Blackstone and do smash burgers because last year I did a charity event where I turned about $250 of seed money into $900 for the Boys and Girls Club selling smash burgers.
Very nice.
That's what I'll just be like. I can rock out smash burgers. They take 3 seconds on the Blackstone. People come through and it's like, boom, pop them out. We're talking with him and doing some other stuff. We found out, maybe I'll just do some pork butts and do some pulled pork and make it kind of simple, make it easier on me. And I'm glad I did make this transition because the day of that event, it was just a lot easier just to kind of make sure buns were there and everybody was, happy. Yeah. So I just went online and I researched because I have no catering background, no restaurant background, nothing like that. Never been in that realm before. Did a bunch of research online of like how much food will I need for such amount of people. So there's me about 100 people there. Did my research about how much I'm going to need in raw pork because it'll shrink when I'm cooking it. And just went through and made sure I had enough there. Got some like sides put together. And I have some friends that do like either own restaurants or have catering stuff. I reached out to them. I was going to use some of their like chafing pans and whatnot, which you can do. But I just ended up just putting it all like in a roaster and then putting the beans in a crock pot because I knew I didn't need to have it sit there for 6 hours. I knew that these guys were going to come through in
Yeah.
like half hour, hour max, and we're going to be, cashed out. So
Yeah.
if someone's looking to get into doing something like that, I mean, realistically, it's going to be almost the same thing. You just got to make sure you have the size and of the equipment ready. So like for me, my pit boss, I can only hold 4 pork butts, right? And
Okay.
I was 8. So I
Yeah.
brought a buddy's pit boss also. He had a
Okay.
vertical one, and I was able to cook all 8 pork butts then at the same time. And then I know that I rested in my cooler, which I've on accident rested for own personal use in a cooler for like 12 hours. And I opened that cooler back up and it was like still steaming hot. So I knew
Yeah.
a 4-hour rest, if I pulled them off at like noon, when I pulled them off at like between 2 and 3, that they'd be fine by dinner time. So,
Okay. So did you so when you're prepping, like what was the like usually like they say, a pound or something per person or whatever. What were you going off of like for the pork? Was it yeah, you
yeah.
said about
So
100 people.
so all the websites I saw was figure about a third of a pound of pork, finished product per person. So that's what I kind of like. And there's even ones out there that like say how many people, and they'll tell you straight up this is how much you needed.
Yeah.
But I was working with my local butcher, and I was like, "How many pounds are in a case?" And he's like, 80 pounds, and I'm like, "Well, that's up and above what I need, and I'd
Mhm.
rather have more than less."
Yeah.
And so I was like, "Yeah, just give me the case." So that's why I cooked up all 8. I mean, I ended up, I think, I shredded 6 of them there at the event, and that was what went through, and I had to leave the event a little bit early, and there was still a little bit left in there. So
Okay.
definitely had more than enough
Mhm.
for everybody that was there.
Now, did you cook on site or did you cook at home and then bring the coolers with you and shred on site? How'd you do that?
I cooked at home and then brought them in the coolers to there.
Okay.
Um, we did get invited back for next year, and I've already talked with a buddy through social media that I met. And I'm hoping that I can work it out with him. He's just got a beautiful trailer smoker
Okay.
that he just got custom made. And he's a veteran, so he was very interested. So next year we might cook on site with his if we can get the logistics to work out. Otherwise, I'll probably just do the same thing.
Yeah.
Cook at my house, put them in the coolers because they can rest in that cooler for like 6 hours at least.
Yeah, yeah, no, very nice. Yeah, when you're cooking for a lot of people, pork, like pork butt or pork shoulder, it's really simple to do. You could do it a little bit ahead of time, like you did, and then you can transport it. And if you have to warm it up on site, but it sounds like it stayed warm throughout, and you just shredded it there, and it's ready to go. And then the sides, so you pretty much did it like potluck style, where you brought like your own catering sort of, brought your own containers and heated it up there. And what else did you do? Did you do just beans or did you do anything else?
So I just did beans. There were some of the community members that were donating some sides. So local restaurant, I think, because they found I was doing pork butt and pulled pork, they donated. It was like 30 some odd pounds of coleslaw or something like that.
Oh, very nice.
And then, I mean, they had desserts galore. I had some cookies from Quick Trip that were donated, which was awesome. And I'm like, cool, bringing, I think it was something like 10 or 12 dozen cookies that I brought. And they barely got touched because of all the other desserts. Like, I think they had, like, someone said they had some church ladies that were wanting to help out, and they
Sure.
a bunch of brownies and cheesecake, and So, so pretty much they had, pulled pork with beans and some coleslaw, and
very nice. So let's get back into the meat. So you got you worked with your local butcher to get a case of, sounds like pork butts, 8 in a case. So how did you prep those? What kind of rub did you use? Did you use any binder? Talk us through that process.
Yeah. So, well, initially they told me it was going to be 10 pork butts. So I was kind of had all my prep work ready for 10, and ended up being 8 that were 10 pounds a piece instead of 10 that were 8 pounds a piece, which was fine.
Okay.
But I honestly just like cut them open, scored the fat cap. I seasoned them with PSC's Notorious PIG, just because they're a sponsor of mine. And so I got good deal on that. And so put that all over, and it's a good rub too. So I just seasoned them all up with that, and then just I had them on some trays, brought them out to the smokers, and put them in. I didn't use any binder. Not saying that I don't use binder. And actually, if people go back into one of my social medias, I just did this post. I think not to kind of get on a little tangent, but as a barbecue industry, we need to stop picking on people if they binder or don't binder, spritz, don't spritz, charcoal, pellets, wood, whatever. We just got to start enjoying each other's company and enjoying barbecue. If someone likes binder, by all means use binder. The only reason why I didn't was I had 8 pork butts to do, and I'm not going to sit there and get my hand all full of like, goop and whatever and trying to get the seasoning on. They were pretty moist in there. The rub stuck. So I just went with it. Now, if I'm doing a home cook and it's 1 pork butt, I might put some mustard on there and knock it out. To me, it doesn't matter. That's the best part about barbecue is you get to experiment. And that's, I think, the reason why I was always drawn to like barbecuing and like cooking is because I get to have fun and experiment. That's why I cannot bake, because you have to follow instructions, and that is not me. I can follow instructions and recipes now.
Yeah, you mean both. If you miss one step and baking that cake or that whatever you're putting in the oven is done, it's done. But if like I miss a step, like today I was making some chili and I missed one step and it didn't ruin just about anything. It's just like it would have been nice to do that step, but I didn't need it, so still tastes great. I'm right there with you. So no binder, that's totally cool, and I agree with you. Like there's so much this is the way to do this thing, or like for us up here in the Midwest, we put beans in our chili, and Southwest are like, no beans in the chili, what are you doing, do you even know how to cook? So no, I totally agree with you there. Like it's kind of personal preference, what's barbecue to you. So no, that's good. So you put them on. What kind of pellets were you using, if you don't mind me asking? Do you have a favorite blend that you use when you do like your pork?
Yeah, so when I do pork butt, I really like cherry and apple. So I had both cherry and apple mixed together pellets from Bear Mountain Pellets, in both hoppers, so in both cooks, so they were both at the same smoke. Both were set at about 225. I put them on at like 3 o'clock on Friday, knowing that like if I went 24 hours, I'm still sitting okay to pull them at that point. The 4 of them were done in about 20 hours. And no, 4 of them were done in 18, 2 finished at 20, and 2 went 24 hours. I was going, checking temps, checking colors, making sure where it was. Pretty much at one point, I'm like, okay, the ones that finished at 18, I'm like, yep, you guys are getting up there in temp, and you got the bark that I like. I'm going to wrap you with some apple juice just because I want to be able to hold, and I'm going to wrap you anyway to put you in a cooler. So I might as well just do it now and kind of get these going a little bit quicker. And that's what I did. Then bumped up the temps on them and got them done. So you can see right there, like pork butts or meat, they don't care what kind of time frame you're on. They're going to do what they want to do. Like I said, it was weird having 4 of them sit in the cooler at 18 hours, and I still had 4 of them sitting on the thing for another like 6 hours. So
now, were these so you said you wrapped them, do you normally wrap, or was this you were only wrapping because you were going to be storing them for a while? And what did you use? Did you use like aluminum foil or butcher paper?
once again, I kind of go wrap or no wrap. Sometimes I've been trying to do like the no wrap method just to see how things turn out, but then every so often you're like, okay, you know what, I really need to eat at some point in time today. So you end up always kind of wrapping if need be. But I put them in with pork butt. I put them in a pan with a little bit of apple juice, just to give them some moisture back in there too, and you can kind of get all that drippings, and this way then when that fat renders and stuff like that too, then you have that all to mix in that final product. And I will say all these pork butts I did fat cap down, not because it's the way to do it, it's because that's where my heat source was. They were so close to the heat source, I didn't want to scorch the bottom of the butts, and so I just figured the fat's going to protect it, and it did. And then it also helped when I put them in those pans to render down more, that when I mixed everything together, it was a great bite. So
That's good. That's good. And so what are you using to keep temp? Do you have wireless Bluetooth, or do you do like old fashioned, just, pen, stick it in there? What do you got?
Both.
Okay.
So I'll run. So I have a wireless set up right now from the meat stick that I love because it's Wi-Fi, so I can like even be like here at work, a couple
Yeah.
miles away from my house if something's still going. I don't have to worry about, oh, now you're outside that little range for
Hmm.
Bluetooth and
Yeah.
whatnot. So those are nice to kind of just keep watching the temps as they go. And then once it gets to the where I'm trying to like look to see if I'm pulling at like that 203 or whatever, I'm using, some like a Thermapen, one that I have there, Thermopro pen thing, and stick it in for an instant read just to kind of be able to pop all around and check out the whole entire butt. So I kind of use it all. Once again, I
Okay.
don't think there's any one better than the other. They all have their needs.
Hmm. Did you find that the butts that got done sooner, were they at certain spots on the grill where maybe it was a little hotter, or did you
Well,
just, it just kind of random?
so this is going to be funny because I've never had it like, well, I have one vertical, but a Bradley where it has the water pan at the bottom to distinguish the pucks. I forgot about
Yeah.
that one because I don't use it anymore. But I was borrowing my buddy's vertical pit boss, and it was cooking all just fine. And then like when I did the switch over from my horizontal to his vertical, like the putts switched around, I went back out there and checked a little bit later, and all of a sudden I see all this like smoke. I'm like, what the heck's going on here? He didn't tell me that there's supposed to be water in a water pan in there.
Yeah.
So the ones that got done earlier were the ones that were on my horizontal. And I'm
Okay.
thinking if I probably had the water in the water pan on his vertical, those other ones that took longer probably would have been done at the same time, just with that humidity
Mhm.
going on in there and whatnot. But I think that was kind of the reason why there was a little bit of difference there. But even like on my own pit boss, there definitely is one side that's hotter than the other.
Okay.
And so there was some rotation that happened about halfway through on their cook when it was still on mine.
Okay. So yeah, no, that's a great, tip is, make sure you kind of understand, if you're cooking for a lot of different people and a lot of different things, kind of keep an eye on that. So that's good. So you got it done. So it sounds like you were at 225 on both. Some were 18 hours, some, 20, 24, it sounded like.
Yep.
You took them off, you wrapped them, and then you put them in the coolers. And how long did they sit in the coolers before you started shredding them up?
So I wait till I got to the event and I pulled in there about like 4 o'clock to start unloading my stuff. It was about 4:30 ish. So I kind of got everything kind of set up to where I wanted for the serving station, get everything kind of settled and organized around. And then I pulled 4 pans out, the first four, the ones that all went 18 hours. So I knew that they were done, rested. Um, and when I opened up that cooler, you just got like a facial, just still steaming.
Yeah.
So I brought them out on the table and kind of lifted the aluminum foil off the cover of them to kind of let them semi cool down so I could shred them.
Yeah.
So I probably shredded them about a half hour before we ate. I put them in the roaster.
Okay. You
And
shredded up. Do you got claws, or what do you do? Or what do you use to shred them up?
obviously I'm touching other people's food, so I had some gloves on and stuff like that. But they're just, the I can't think of whatever the black gloves are.
Yeah. The
And
Oklahoma Joes or whatever,
yeah, type things, just
with the
like the
liners.
yeah. Well, I didn't have any liners on either, so I was just straight,
Mm.
just like
Okay.
meat gloves, and that was it. No
Okay.
cloth glove underneath. And so what I pretty much did was I would pull the bone out because that just slid out, let everything kind of cool, and then I actually just used that bone to shred them initially there to kind of break everything up. I saw somebody else do that on I think Instagram or TikTok. I'm like, that's smart. Like they're
Yeah.
giving me a way to do this. Yes. If I had bear claws, I probably would have used them, but
Mm.
I didn't. So I used what I had and shredded it all up. And then when I needed to, just got in there and shredded the bigger chunks with my fingers, and it
Mhm.
worked out great.
Awesome. So it just shredded up like butter, man. Like it, you had it to
Oh
the
yeah.
perfect temp. It was still steaming, let it cool down a little bit. Then you just dug right in and it just pulled right apart for you. That's awesome. Um, And then did you, I'm just gonna make the assumption that you let people sauce it themselves if they wanted sauce. Now,
Correct.
are you a sauce guy? Do you like sauce on your, your stuff like your ribs or your pork shoulders? Or are you not a sauce guy?
It all depends. I mean, like I'll eat pulled pork by itself, plain
Yeah.
sauce. I will probably put some sauce on the pulled pork. Ribs, I'm really like I love just dry, not no sauce. Um, so I've tried, doing cooks, because everybody's like, oh, look at these beautiful sauced up and that tackiness. I'm like, okay, I get it and I like it, but I prefer just like that rub in the meat and the smoke. And so typically I'm not, but yeah, I didn't sauce it up because I had quite a few different sauces there, which apparently I ran out of. So next year I have to definitely bring more sauces. But they all gobbled up the sauces that I had and, allowed them to put on what they wanted. Had different types. Some people were like, I want spicy. Some were like, I want sweet.
Oh yeah.
Like my favorite is a mustard based sauce that I had there. And that's what I put on mine. So, I mean, you have the full spectrum and everybody has different tastes. So I think it's one of those things where you have to just kind of like let people put on what they want
Mhm.
because everybody's have different tastes.
Yeah, yeah, no, I totally agree. And then do you so after you shred it up, do you put any more seasoning on it at all, or just you just let it go?
Nope. Yep. I put some more of the Notorious PIG. I brought that with, and then
Okay.
I poured a little bit of apple juice in there too, just to make sure it all kind of stayed moist and
Yeah.
give it a little bit of flavor.
Okay. So they come through, they get some pork, they put it on a bun, um, and they sauce if they want a sauce. And what was the verdict from the crowd?
Well, they invited me back last or for next year, so I'm guessing I did all right.
That's good. It's a good sign.
Yeah, definitely. And so, like, well, they had me beforehand because I told them I wanted to thank some of our sponsors, like Burp Hip Barbecue. You guys donated some stuff to me for that event, and so I wanted to acknowledge you guys and some of the other people that donated. And so I told them at the beginning, I said, if you really like the barbecue, thank you. And I, made it. If you didn't, it was Famous Dave. So I had a couple people come up and say, no, I was like, okay, well, Famous Dave, giving me shit. But I mean, I saw a couple people come up 2-3 times, so I'm guessing they must have liked it.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good sign.
yeah, I didn't see anybody throwing away the food. So
Well, that's good. That's good. And it was for a great cause. We'll put the links to the organization in the show notes so people can go out and support if they want. But now you've done this now, and we always like to kind of go, what did you learn, right? So if you could go back, to the beginning and, if you're going to do this again, what would be some advice that you would give yourself that, you wish you would have known or thought of, now looking back?
definitely don't overthink it. Like leading up like a couple of weeks to it, I was a nervous wreck because like you have 100 people that are looking upon you to make this food, and I just needed to realize it's the same thing you've done here multiple times, just a little bit bigger scale, right? So instead of having just one smoker, you're having two smokers running. It's still the same product. Instead of one cooler, it's two coolers for resting. Um, I would next time realize how much veterans love baked beans and bring more. That and barbecue sauce were the two things I ran out of.
Okay.
So, but as far as that, it's kind of like I would say almost like planning a wedding. You always get the big stuff out of the way, and then it's the little stuff beforehand that gets you all in a wreck. And it's just don't sweat the small stuff because some people won't even realize the small stuff. Just make sure you do everything smooth, health wise, like make sure you do everything correctly there, handling food, make sure you're gloved up and whatever. But I would just make sure that not sweat the small stuff. I was going to tell myself it's all gonna be okay. And
It's just barbecue, man.
it's just barbecue.
Yeah. And then if you was there a piece of equipment that you're like, man, I'm so glad I had this, or I wish I would have had this, if you could go back, what would that equipment be?
Bigger smoker.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah. If you're cooking
if I could just run it off of one,
yeah,
that would be huge.
Okay.
Possibly, just have like the smoker possibly even on site type thing that, people could be able to see. But honestly, otherwise everything else was pretty I had all my good thermometers, stuff like that. Maybe a Cambro instead of using coolers. So Cambro, if you're listening to this, reach out to your boy. But something like that where I can maybe store all of them together instead of two different coolers.
Okay.
Fit everything in it better.
Okay. So
everything else
bigger equipment, that you can, keep it all into one spot instead of having it all over the place. That's a good tip if you're able to do that. And so just overall though, you've been barbecuing and grilling for a long time. We do have quite a few new people that listen to the podcast or tune in. So now going all the way back, if you could give yourself advice, when you first started, what advice would you give yourself?
Make mistakes. Honestly, like from my mistakes was where then like the next time I made that dish or product or whatever is when I made the best. You had to heat up too high, so then you brought it down, and next boom, it's the best. Mm-hmm. You didn't season enough, so you put a little bit more seasoning on next time, it was better. Don't be afraid to make mistakes and just make them. If you burn something or whatever, guess what? We live in a first world country. You can go down the road, there's a McDonald's or Burger King, get you something that day to eat, come back and try it again the next day.
Yeah, I love that, man. Always have a pizza in the freezer, and just in case you need it. But yeah, I echo that, man. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's just barbecue. You'll do better the next time.
Exactly.
That's great advice. So Blake, I really appreciate you coming on the show, sharing kind of your cook that you just had, walking through that process. I think it's going to help a lot of people. If people want to find you on the socials, where can they find you at?
So they're both the same, Blake BSing around, either on TikTok or on Instagram. Both of them, follow me on both, and yeah, we'll grow together.
Yeah, putting some good content out there. So again, I'll put a link to your socials in the show notes so people can find you. But Blake, again, I really appreciate you taking the time today to chat, barbecue with me, and looking forward to seeing what else you put out there.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
All right, no problem, man. Take care.